All right, speaking of getting drafted, as I mentioned, LeBron could have played tight end in the NFL. Speaking of tight ends, a tight end just went off the board to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Pat Freiermuth out of Penn State. So good on them to get him. But a couple picks here stand out. Certainly Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was projected as a first-round pick. He goes on day 2, 52nd overall, as the Browns trade up to address the linebacker situation, get him. Certainly a guy that can step in and be a day 1 starter in Cleveland. Speaking of Cleveland, let's get back out to the land where we find Ryan Wilson and Jonathan Jones. And been a lot of picks thus far, some interesting picks. I just mentioned Jeremiah Koramoah there, Owusu-Koramoah to the Cleveland Browns. I know all the fans there were going nuts. I was going nuts here in the studio. And Jonathan, you love that pick as well.
Love the pick. Absolutely love the pick. It's fantastic value for the Cleveland Browns. We did have a first-round grade on Owusu-Koramoah, J-O-K, Woo, as he is also known, so many nicknames. But this is a guy who, he's a hybrid player. You could call him a tweener a couple years ago. You would have called him a tweener. And I think that what we just saw was that classic fall that we used to see a couple years ago from NFL teams, Ryan. The kind of fall that, all right, he's a little bit too small to play linebacker. Let's throw him out there on the edge. Well, is he going to hold up out there? But all of his highlights, he's out here running with slots down the field. Maybe he fell because of Isaiah Simmons last year. I'm not entirely sure, but we know that the Cleveland Browns needed help at linebacker. Again, not your classic linebacker, but they went corner there in the first round. Now in the second, they trade up to get Woo, and I really, really like this pick for what the Cleveland Browns are trying to do on defense under defensive coordinator Joe Woods.
It's funny to talk about defense because the Browns got 2 defensive guys with their first 2 picks. I'm going to talk about the Cowboys. They got Kelvin Joseph in round 2, the cornerback out of Kentucky, played alongside Jamin Davis, and he had a fantastic season. The problem for Kelvin Joseph is this. They showed the highlights of Kyle Pitts, and Kyle Pitts burned him badly on 1 touchdown during that game last season. Nothing to worry about. Kyle Pitts burned everybody that lined up against him. But when you watch Kelvin Joseph play in and play out, he stood out. LSU transfer, came to Kentucky, played really well, and the Cowboys are addressing needs. We've talked about teams in this draft that haven't done a good job of addressing those needs in the first and second round. In the first round, the Cowboys traded down when their cornerbacks were gone that they wanted, J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain. And what did they do? They got Micah Parsons, a top 5 pick who fell because of some maturity issues. And that's it. If they can make it work in Dallas with him, and he had a really good introductory press conference today that gives them hope that that'll certainly happen, then you add Kelvin Joseph, the cornerback in round 2. You're filling needs. And we talked earlier, Hakeem, you and I and B-Mac, about how the Giants were trading down and trying to stockpile picks, and they were favored so far in this division along with Washington. The Cowboys are doing exactly what they need to do with Dak being healthy and fixing that defense to compete in what we all agree is a pretty bad division.
Indeed. It went from the NFC beast to the NFC least there in 1 season, and certainly some extracurricular activities. Whether or not you want to argue that happened at the end of the season, you be the judge on that one. But hey, some instant analysis there from Ryan Wilson and Jonathan Jones joining us from Cleveland. Much more ahead, and instant analysis on CBS Sports HQ. And hey, we got a powerhouse NFL podcast, all things covered. Join B-Mac and Patrick Peterson. Their latest guest, Santana Moss. He talks about his Hennessy game against the Cowboys. Pretty good listen there. And if you want round-by-round reaction to the NFL draft, join host Will Brinson, his super friends Ryan Wilson, John Breach on the Pick 6 podcast. Download and subscribe today.